fueled fishery.
I'm just going to ask you about that.
Yeah, I'm going to go through a whole bunch. Okay, on the open beaches, so this is a storm wildeye. In the inlets, I'll use the tsunami swim shads because they're a little narrower, a little heavier, and they're going to track better in that current in the inlet. But on the open beaches, where it's a little shallower, a storm wildeye, that's a little wider profile, a little bit lighter in weight. This is a great lure. Of course, the downside is, if it's a peanut blitz, it's probably bluefish, right? So, they're going to, in fact, well, this one's all, all split. So, but yep, I'll use these in a situation where first I want to catch them on a bucktail. If that's not working and they're really picky, I'll go to these. And I really like these in the lime, the bright green, in a situation like that, when it's like a bait soup and you're trying to get something to stand out. Sometimes that will do it. But these are good, and I like the 4, 5, and 6-inch models. This is a 6. So Storm Wildeye is a good one. And one last thing on the bucktails, and I'll get back to other lures with peanuts, is the whitewater blankets on the bars. Try to time your cast so when those waves break, that your cast lands, at such a time that you're going to run that lure at the time. You watch a wave break, you get all that white foam, and it dissipates after, 5, 6 seconds. It depends on the waves in the bar and everything else. If you can time your cast to work underneath that, you'll be amazed at how well that can work. But if you're not convinced that that's why you're catching them, you try it both ways, where I've seen days where, oh my goodness, if I could get it underneath that whitewater blanket and time it correctly, boom, I'm getting tapped and wrapped, almost every cast. And then for the heck of it, some waves, there's no waves coming, so I got to hit the dead water, nothing. As soon as I have that whitewater blanket again, boom, they're hitting. So just little stuff. That's all. Think about it. Bucktails, how much simpler can you get? A hook, some lead, deer hair. But a lot of little things you can do to really make them work for you. Okay, so other lures, a lot of times a bunker will hug the shoreline, are those beach lips, right behind where that first wave breaks. Boy, a lot of times, especially if you have a day that's sunny, where the fish don't really have any cover, but you've got waves breaking on the beach, there you've got some turbulence, so the fish have a little bit of cover. That lip is really, if you've ever stepped into the water on a nice calm day, you drop down a little bit. That's what they're doing. They're running along that little channel. It's not much of a channel. It's like, a little depression. What is it? Maybe an extra foot, 2 feet. But that's enough, especially with the waves breaking, that they're running behind that. And there's 2 things you need to think about is when that bucktail's coming in, focus very, very carefully when that thing's coming through the wash. I see too many people where the bucktail's kind of close. All right, this cast is over. Oh my God, no. Maybe that's the best part of the cast, is right in that little narrow spot of water. Now, if I start getting hit in there and I have the room to do it, I'm going to then start with this little diagonal cast. And I'm not going to even think about, well, should I throw this way or that way? I'm going to try either way and then, do whatever is working the best. If I have people around me, I'm just going to move where I have a little bit of room to do that, because a lot of times those fish will be running right down along that trough. And, bucktail's a perfect lure to get in there. A lot of times plugs will get all tossed around in the turbulence. They won't dig. Bucktail's always looking good. You just have to concentrate on it as it's going through and think about, when the wave's approaching, you may be speeding your retrieve up a little bit, because it's not so much the speed of the bucktail, it's the speed of the bucktail in relation to the water it's in. So that wave's coming, you might speed it up a little touch, but now when the wave is receding and your bucktail's going into the water, you might drop that retrieve down to almost nothing and just hang it in that turbulence. I'm shaking because I can picture that. Here's that wave coming out, there's that turbulence, and I'm like ready to set the hook. And so it's just little stuff like that makes a big difference. So this is great. Now you go down to the beach and you've got schools of bunker, and the fish don't hit. And I was trying to decide whether I want to go to the pictures, but I'll go to the pictures at the end. One of the things is sometimes you get, we're seeing too much bait in the water. And a couple things I've done in these situations, which are always really frustrating, because, the bait's there, the fish are there, and they won't hit. A couple things that have worked is, you know, first of all, a bucktail really has a pretty nice profile for a peanut bunker. Something that's worked with me, and I gotta say, this has worked for me with big bluefish, but not so much on bass, is get rid of the pork rind strip, because this is a pretty good match. You know, you try different things when you get in these situations. This has worked well for me with big blues. Another thing is, I mean, look, I don't know if anybody's seen, this is a tidal tail bucktail. They're made by John Knight, Hudson Point, or Hudson Park, bait and tackle. You know, this is a really specialized bucktail. In fact, you shouldn't call it a bucktail, it's a weighted fly, because they put way too much thought into this. They've got, you know, all kinds, it's basically what a fly tire would do, except they did it on a bucktail head. And the point is that it's a bucktail that was tied to be used without a trailer. I mean, this catches fish, no trailer, no fork, no grub tail. And times where I've had fish be real picky in the bunker schools, this has worked for me. Another thing that has worked, and this was definitely out of frustration, where I had fish in front of me just would not touch a thing, is I've tried to just crank the bucktail really fast and then just drop it like this. So that bucktail is going through the school and then comes straight down from that canopy of bait. And I can just imagine if you're a game fish underneath that bait canopy and all of a sudden something comes straight down like that. For whatever reason, that can trigger something. It doesn't work every time. It's worked for me times where, oh my God, I spent 2 hours doing like nothing. And then the first time I picked up on that, oh my, it just changed the day completely. So just, you know, little tricks with peanuts. The other thing is, you know, boy, if you go down the beach and there's a peanut bunker fuel blitz, you know, what do you want to do? You want to get up there in that big mess of boiling water and fish splashing and all that. And yeah, you know what? I'm going to start in that too. If I'm just getting on the beach, maybe I'm going to start in that. But the nice thing about the bucktail is you can work it underneath the schools very nicely. A lot of the better fish are going to be underneath those schools picking up the scraps. So yeah, you see fish breaking, and yeah, the guy throwing the atom popper is catching some fish. But you know what? In terms of peanut bunker fueled fishery, many times I see the better fish are being caught underneath with bucktails. And it's not just underneath, it's let the school go by and just keep fishing. Because a lot of times there's residuals, they're coming up behind those schools, they're lazy, it's the better fish, they're picking up stuff off the bottom. And I'm not going to chase the school. And I've seen times where you just stay in one spot for over an hour and just keep catching while the main body just moves on down the beach. And you know, yeah, you don't have fish busting in front of you. It's not obvious. The funny thing is to watch the trucks. While you have a bent rod, watch the trucks just drive by you. I'm catching fish. I would assume that's what you want. I'm not arguing with them. Yeah, go down where the other guys are. Yeah, but it's just one day in particular, I must have had 15 trucks just fly by me while I had a fish on every single freaking cast, and they were nice bass, and they just wanted to go down in the crowd where the birds and the trucks were. Just keep fishing low and behind the schools with the bucktails can make a big difference. Some people love to tie direct to everything. With these bucktails, I use a snap, and for years it was dual lock snaps, and every year, whenever I give a talk or write an article, I always say, all right, yeah, a couple times a year, fish comes down on the bucktail, comes down on the snap, works the snap open, I lose everything, but I'm willing to pay that price because I need the flexibility to be able to change bucktails, everything else. But then comes the breakaway clips and Alberto's, come on, what are they called? Tactical anglers, that's it, okay. The breakaways and the tactical angler clips, I don't use dual locks at all anymore. I wish Alberto made some smaller tactical angler clips. For my smaller lures, I use the small breakaway. What a stupid name, breakaway, for something that you're trying to hold fish on. So I use both sides of the breakaways, and I use the smaller tactical anglers clips. No more dual locks. I don't feel as though using a clip in any way diminishes the action on the bucktail. Not a chance. But this is nice because these don't open up. So pretty